Alrighty. It seems like Gaijin has gone and done it again. Gone and hit the right nerve and pissed off enough community members for me to decide that I'm going to have to make a video on this as well. Heck, even Saw and Thunder has decided to make a video on this. So it's definitely pissed off a certain number of people. And for all the right reasons. Now, I'm not going to decide to rat on Gaijin because I'm sick of seeing that. Instead, I'll see if I can link a couple of videos in the description and you can go and watch them yourself, as well as the original. For me, I'm going to give some actual stock tips, so some genuine things that you can actually use in random battles. I'm going to stick to realistic, because that's my area of, I would say, expertise. But if any of you have any arcade or simulator stock tips, then you're more than welcome to chuck them in the comments. And if there's anything that's pretty good, I'll make sure to promote it, I guess. So the first tip that Gaijin gives is basically reach into your wallet. Buy that premium account, buy those golden eagles, I guess, and that would be a reasonable way to get rid of the stock syndrome. It is certainly a valid method, but not everyone has that kind of money to just sort of hand out, oh look, my Super Pershing is shit. So yeah, we'll feed it golden eagles and maybe it'll get fatter and bigger and shoot more and take more damage. Yes, but there are over 1,000 tanks in this game, 1,000 tanks and planes, and you're not going to spend golden eagles on the whole lot of them. It'll cost you like $5,000 or something like that. Something ridiculous. And no one wants to throw $5,000 at a video game, let's face it. Well, if you want to do it yourself, then there are certain other ways as well. Golden eagles and suffering through pain isn't the only way to get these things spaded. Personally, when I'm playing random battles, I like to use a little rule that I call the 3-match rule. I decide to play a battle rating, say 5.3 Germany, take my BF-109 G10. I'll go play it for 3 matches, and if our team wins by quite a significant margin, I'll keep playing that battle rating, because I enjoy winning, and I don't want to lose. Even if I have a real strong hankering to play my P51 D30, I don't play it, because I know I'm going to get my ass handed to me, and I know I'm going to end up salty, and I'm going to end up basically in a worse mood than I started, which is not why I play games. So you can apply this rule to when you're looking to break that stock syndrome on tanks and planes. You pick a BR, maybe pick a tank that's already spaded or that has enough upgrades. So for example, if you're just breaking into the 8.0 barrier with the Chieftain Mark III, you could play the Conqueror or the Vickers MBT, or if you have anything else that's 8.0, like the M60s or something around that area where you can gauge which team is winning, then you can find out what side you can be on, and you can pick the best side. As stupid as that may sound, it genuinely works, and it genuinely makes your struggle a lot easier, because you have good teammates to work with, and you're not always struggling because there's 3 tanks flanking you and there's a couple of Object 906s pushing you and you've got problems here, problems there, and then all of a sudden an Arado comes out of nowhere and you get a big bomb on your head. So by using that 3-match rule, you can very, very effectively gauge how well a spading process is going to go. And if you have multiple tanks, so for example you have your T-54s and you have your Chieftain that you need to sort of break the stock syndrome, if the Allies are getting absolutely hammered, you can just play the Russians and you'll have a lot better of a time. In saying that, you don't want to have multiple tanks to break that stock syndrome, because it will take time, but you will anyway, just by the natural flow of the game. So for example, in my tech tree, my T-54 is stock. I've also got my M47 and in the future I'll get the M48, and that'll be stock. I haven't got the IS4M, and I'll have to go through that stock grind sooner or later anyway. So I'll always have multiple tanks and multiple planes that need spading on both allies' axis. It's never going to end unless you're the Orange Doom or Oxygen Thief. Then the grind never ends. Another good tip for planes. We're going to go into some tips for aircraft now. You should fly solo. You shouldn't fly in a squad. If you're flying in squads, then chances are your teammates have either spaded or upgraded planes, or they're using a different plane that performs slightly different to the way you play. Now, they'll be taking your kills, they'll be taking your RP, you may get victories out of it, but with the 3-game rule, you don't need to consider whether the match is going to be a win or a loss. You have that almost guaranteed win, because you know that the people on your team are either more skilled or have better planes, or the battle rating just seems to work out better. Definitely never fly in a squad. It is easier to just go in, go super aggressive, grab a couple of kills, and then get out and move into the next match. McChickenbites, when the Italian planes came out, made a really, really good video on how to grind. And it may have seemed a little bit odd at the time, but because the Italian planes were constantly winning battles, battle after battle, it was a lot easier for them to simply go in, get a couple of kills, let the rest of the team wipe the floor, and keep going. And it genuinely makes sense, even though you sacrifice a bit of statistics, but if you don't care about stats, then this is the perfect method, I would say. I would recommend you target ground attackers and you target low fighters. If you can't find any, I would suggest going for ground targets until you get a couple of upgrades. If you have to, push ahead on. If you have to, play super aggressively and recklessly. That way, you find out the way the plane works. You get some RP. You learn what to do and what not to do. So, for example, in your P-47, you may not know it first, but you want to have an energy advantage. And the way you find that out is by having several G2s dive on you and realize, hey, maybe I should climb it a little bit higher. But you don't have that stock performance. So what do? Grab a couple of AA on your way down, maybe force a head-on with a duck, although I wouldn't recommend a duck maybe. Maybe something that's got crapper frontal guns. But you get the point. You need to play aggressively, because that's how you grind quicker. I would definitely not recommend camping the airfield. If you're damaged, just go for the head-on. Doesn't matter if it's with a fucking duck or if it's with a BF 109 G2 or with a Focke-Wulf 190 or whatever, with a PO2. If you're heavily damaged and you're definitely not going to make the end of the match, just push ahead on with something. You never know, you might just get a hit, you might just get an assist, you might just get a kill. Any RP helps, especially with planes, where you can get RP pretty readily. The more that you run back to your airfield and camp, the longer the grind gets. You need to work on those constant kills, quick action, because RB is about slow pace, positioning, strategy. You need to bring on that pace in order to grind. Otherwise, you're not going to get the required research that you need, and you're not going to get your plane spaded. When you're actually grinding upgrades, I would recommend that you go for the performance first. Make sure you get to that engine injection, or if you're in jets, get to that compressor, and then go for your belts. Especially with the tier 4 planes, engine injection makes a world of difference. If you're struggling, I struggled a lot with my G56, spading that. That was absolute hell until I got the engine injection, and then I loved it. Then I absolutely loved it. So you go for that engine injection, then you get the belts. And then you get your secondary armaments, so your bombs, your rockets, etc. Even with attackers. If you're in your duck, go for fighters. You'll be surprised at how dumb some fighter pilots can be, how many stupid mistakes they'll make, and how you can capitalize on that. If you can't, just mop up some AA. It's not that hard. The only exception to that rule is when you start to get into the British and Japanese planes, which Hispanos are shit, and Japanese guns are hardened rice. And so, you want to go for the guns first, because that means that you can actually get kills now. And once you can start getting kills, that means your efficiency becomes a lot greater, and you're actually able to pick up those high RP matches. Whereas before, you would be getting assists here, assists there, and then you would end up dying, and it's painful. It is very painful. But for air, that's my recommendation. Play aggressively, go for those kills. Go for quick, high-intensity matches, because that'll be what brings in the RP. For tanks, however, it's a completely different ball game. With tanks, you can see that the action is already there. It only takes a couple of minutes to get into the battle, and you can potentially be in and out of a battle within 20 seconds because you YOLO charge in and then die. With tanks, you've also got to grind parts, FPE, better shells, better performance, crew replenishment, artillery smoke, which gives you extra utility. Personally, we'll start with playing in squads. I would pick one friend that you play really well with. Pick one person and play games with them. Maybe they can have a spaded tank, maybe they can have a similar tank. Once you've done that 3-match rule, you should have a much easier time with your grinding. Especially now that you have a squad mate to back you up. You may not have that APCR if you use APCR. I don't know who religiously uses APCR. But if you say you're in your Leopard 1 and you don't have Heat FS yet, maybe your squad mate has Heat FS, or maybe they have the RU251 and they can help you out. Always have that one squad mate there, especially when your shell doesn't work. You'll be so thankful that they'll be able to take that for you. It honestly works miracles in tanks because the action is there. You can rack up kills, and it's more about winning the battle. However, I wouldn't take a massive lineup. Don't take a lineup of more than 4 vehicles, I would say. Take maximum 2 or 3 tanks and maximum 1 or 2 planes. The other tanks are realistically there to mop up a match, to get it to end quicker. So if your transmission's out and there's one guy in a plane climbing to space, you can just J out, spawn in your fighter, and mop him up. Or if there's a tank camping in the corner of the map, you can J out and mop them up. I wouldn't care about your KD. Trust me, KD doesn't mean shit. What you need to look for when you're grinding a stock tank is just getting to the end of that game and making sure it's a win. With the 3-match rule, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but it can go either way, and you need that extra backup in your lineup to just mop it up. If you're taking any more than that, chances are the match is not worth participating in any longer because it's going to reduce your RP efficiency. I wouldn't play as aggressively as you would a spaded tank. Personally, because that action is already there, you need to play a little bit more measured because you're not as combat capable. You need to consider that your tank may actually not have the penetrating power. Your tank may not have the killing power. You may be stuck with APDS in your T55. Good fucking luck with that. But in all seriousness, you can potentially, by playing less aggressively, find those kills and mop them up. Like, for example, that heavy tank that's on 2 crew. You could just swoop in and take it. I mean, if it's on fire and someone's clearly called it, then I wouldn't take it. But if you're flanking on, say, Maginot, and there just happens to be a heavy tank out in the middle of the field that's just put out its second fire, setting it on fire a third time wouldn't be a bad thing. Especially considering that, you know, your teammates are also shooting at it, and any shots that you deal is RP towards you. I would recommend taking that squad mate with you as well when you go flanking. I would suggest if you take the first shot and miss, or you seem to falter, or you shoot the loader or whatever like that, you've got that teammate there to back you up. He can take out the breach, he can take out the driver, whatever it needs to be done for you to get that second reload in and finish them off. That second teammate will be your lifeblood. You need to stick with them. If you're in a tank that can't flank, like a mouse, then what you need to do is you need to stick with your team, and I would recommend finding a capture point and defending it. You'll be surprised how many people go for a capture point after it's been taken and people have moved on. And you'll be there to sort of sit in there and just either snitch a kill or catch an unsuspecting light tank or something like that that's gone to capture a point. You just need to make sure that you're out of range of bombs with your squad mate. So I wouldn't put two mouse tanks nice and close together, just so that they can be taken out by a PO2. I would spread them out just a little bit. Just enough so that they're out of bomb range of each other, because a still mouse is going to get bombed. And you don't want to be set on fire with your squad mate. If you're having trouble with, for example, repairing, the mouse has a very long repair time. You can sit in the capture point, and whilst you're defending it, you're replenishing your ammo stocks, everything happens a little bit faster, and overall, you're just having a bit more of a better time. And if you die, well, you've taken enough damage to get into a plane. I think if you just play your tank right, you play it just that little bit less aggressively than you normally would, or than you should, but not camping at the back of the map passively, but rather learning when to advance with your team and sticking to that line of defense, then you can essentially make that stock grind a little bit easier. It's not easy. And I went through 0 stock grind with the new rank 6 tanks. Gaijin gave me some of them, and I half grinded the Challenger. That was painful enough. So I understand what it's like to go through the stock grind, and I also understand what it's like to have this beautiful spaded tank right off the bat. But by putting in that effort, I've done it with my Leopard 1, I've done it with my Chieftain, I've done it with my T62 without premium. On the Leopard and the T62. That was difficult, but the way I took to it, I wasn't expecting anything. If I got a kill, it was a bonus for me. If I found that my turret ring was taken out, I was in a mood that I wouldn't get salty, and I wouldn't rage or be upset or whatever. I would just take it. You've got to get yourself into that mindset where if you don't get a kill, it's not the end of the world. If you get set on fire early in the game, it's not the end of the world. But that's quite hard to do. So reserve spading tanks or breaking that stock grind for when you're in a really good mood, or if you're in a really calm mood. I wouldn't do it if you're overhyped or feeling aggressive or anything like that. I would just sit and be chill, because realistically, that's what'll help you get results, and that's what'll keep you with a level head in order to make the most of a crappy situation of being stock. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this informative. I'm sick of shitting on Gaijin. Other people can do that. I'm here to give you some tips. If I missed anything, make sure you let me know in the comments section, and if it's good, I will promote it. If there's anything that you think that I'm wrong about, let me know in the comments, and if it's good, I'll promote it. Anyway, ladies and gents, take care, and I'll catch you next time.